your aptitude, your understanding about life, we can help you with everything. If you are interested in enlightenment, we will immediately bring this to you. If you are not interested, we will explain the whole science, inspire you and make you interested in enlightenment time. We need to cater this enlightenment science to the whole world wherever they are, because enlightenment is the birthright of all human beings. Kailasa is responsible to provide that to all human beings. Kailasa is the totality of the knowledge I received from my gurus and practice manifested in my life, perfected by teaching millions of people from all cultures.
Nithyanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dhandvatitam Ganadasham Tadvamasthyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Nithyanandam. Today, October 24th, is the United Nations Day, and on behalf of Kailasa Nation and with the blessings of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Jagadguru Mahasannidhanam, His Divine Holiness Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, we welcome each and every one of you on this very important day. We have here delegates of the Sri Kailasa Nation, myself, Ma Vijayapriya Nithyananda, Ma Nitya Katitananda, Ma Nitya Swatantra Priyananda, and Ma Nitya Mahakatitananda. Today is the perfect opportunity to gather from all around the world to pay tribute to the United Nations for their extraordinary contributions to humanity and to discuss how Kailasa's Uniting Nations, founded and led by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Jagadguru Mahasannidhanam, His Divine Holiness Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, has taken the responsibility to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals of 2030 as declared by the United Nations for a peaceful and sustainable future. Who is the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism? The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, was born on January 3rd, 1978, and he is the reviver of Kailasa, the ancient enlightened civilizational nation, and the great cosmic borderless Hindu nation. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is the 1008 incarnation of Paramashiva, as per Hinduism, recognized by his predecessors who are enlightened masters and adepts. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has made the science of power manifestation in temple-based universities available for all humanity. The sovereign order of Sri Kailasa, led by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, and Nithyananda order of monks, nuns, and Hindu diaspora are working for global peace and to achieve superconscious breakthrough to humanity.
Ordained as the 233rd Guru Mahasannidhanam Pontiff of Kanchi Kailasa Sarvanyapitam Tondai Mandaladinam, the 203rd Emperor of the Surya Vamsa Surangi Samrajam, Present 293rd Jagat Guru Mahasannidhanam, Pontiff of Kailasonnata Shamalapita Sarvanyapitam. Present Mahamandaleshwar, Supreme Spiritual Head of Mahanirvaniakada, the largest apex monastic order, ordained as a 1008th Acharya Mahamandaleshwar, the head for all spiritual leaders of Atalakada, the ancient apex body of Hinduism. The present 23rd Guru Mahasannidhanam of Dharma Mukti Swargapura Madinam, the incumbent emperor of the Suryavamsa Surangi Samrajam kingdom, elected as the supreme pontiff of Hinduism in 2015 by a congregation of over 1,000 Hindu leaders, pontiffs, and spiritual leader of the 2 billion Hindu diaspora worldwide.
For the past 27 years of his public life, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism since an enlightened system for communities all around the world. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has inspired over 30 million Hindus to revive the non-violent-based enlightened ecosystem. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism initiated the Minutes for Peace meditation in 2003, and since then, 4.3 billion minutes and meditation have been recorded. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism launched the No Hungry Home project with 1 billion free meals served globally since the last 27 years. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism opened his monasteries as a sanctuary for thousands of families, their quarantine facilities with all amenities provided for free of cost. And the United Hindu University, which is the world's largest Hindu university with 1.65 million enrollments, 2,700 courses with over 450 extended campuses in more than 150 countries, with more than 10,000 hours of spiritual discourses on ancient rare spiritual manuscripts. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is also a strong advocate of vegetarianism, and he is a defender and upholder of women and LGBTQ+ rights. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has built 11 temples in North America and 150 temples around the world, with 10,000 females served daily, over 250,000 programs conducted, including free daily yoga and meditation classes.
So before sharing about the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's contributions to the world with regards to the Sustainable Development Goals 2030 as declared by the United Nations, we would firstly like to present to you the context of which the United Nations was founded. The United Nations, which now comprises of 193 member states, is an international organization which was founded in 1945 after the Second World War. And at that time, 51 countries unanimously committed to maintaining peace and security, developing friendly relations amongst nations, promoting social progress for better living standards and human rights. So when it comes to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, there are 17 of them. And mostly they were adopted by world leaders in September 2015 at an historic UN summit, which came into force on January 1st, 2016. The objective was to produce a set of universal goals that meet the urgent environmental, political, and economic challenges facing our world. The goal was to mobilize more governments, civil societies, businesses, calling on all people to make global goals their own. So as described by world leaders, the Sustainable Development Goals of 2030 are a guide, essentially a to-do list and a blueprint for success. They are an agenda to balance human prosperity with protecting the planet, and also shows a bold commitment to tackle some of the world's most pressing challenges facing today. So as mentioned before, there are 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. The first one is no poverty. Goal number 2, zero hunger. Number 3, good health and well-being. Number 4, quality education. Number 5, gender equality. Number 6, clean water and sanitation. Number 7, affordable and clean energy. Number 8, decent work and economic growth. 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure. 10, reduced inequalities. 11, sustainable cities and communities. 12, responsible consumption and production. 13, climate action. 14, life below water. 15, life on land. 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. And finally, number 17, partnerships for the goals. And the UN Sustainable Development Goals, essentially Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations has mapped all of 108 causes towards these UN Sustainable Development Goals, which will be shared shortly. 108 causes supported by Sri Kailasa, from child welfare to promotion of food banks, to gender equality, animal rights, original nations, and the list goes on and on. So essentially all of these 108 goals or initiatives by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations have been mapped also to the UN Sustainable Goals, and a lot more. So this will be shared with you right now.
So similarly to the context which led to the creation of the United Nations, Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations was founded by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism as a survival need. Let us go back in history to understand how SKUN, Sri Kailasa Uniting Nation, is a necessity in today's world. Hinduism was a state religion in 56 nations across the continent, from Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Nepal, Burma, Sri Lanka to Singapore, Malaysia, Cambodia, and Indonesia. In 200 states, 1,700 provinces, and 10,000 traditions. Centuries of the combined forces of foreign invasions, political upheaval, colonialism, and religious persecution systematically exterminated 98% of the world's oldest living civilization, the Hindu enlightenment ecosystem. Today, Hindu temples remain in Afghanistan, Cambodia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, but the generational Hindus who lived and practiced this tradition and culture have been systematically and ethnically cleansed. So to preserve enlightened ecosystem in the world, as per Hindu scriptures, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism declared the independence of the sovereign state of Sri Kailasa as per internationally accepted norms. Following the coronation to establish Kailasa worldwide at the age of just 16, for the past 27 years, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, as the face of the unified Hindus, has been single-handedly, tirelessly inspiring the dispossessed Hindu diaspora to reclaim their Hindu-centric freedom and stand unified for the centuries-old Hindu genocide. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has declared, I am the collective voice of all the persecuted Hindus. I will revive and rebuild a Hindu nation built on Vedagamic principles as a refuge for all practicing and aspiring Hindus, a safe haven for all persecuted Hindus. So the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, founded Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations, an initiative to spread the great spiritual truth of Sanatana Hindu Dharma from its Vedagamas all over the world. For the past 27 years, this international body has been responsible for 1. Building relations, building dialogues, inspiring leaders, and uniting nations towards acknowledging the Hindu policies which are universal and life positive as referenced from the ancient text of Hinduism. This is the ahimsa, the non-violent way of bringing acknowledgement to the horrors of the Hindu genocide, the untoughest act of mankind on earth, to the most contributing civilization, Sri Kailasa. Sri Kailasa Uniting Nation is working towards the revival of the 10,000 indigenous traditions and nations and has committed to fulfill 108 initiatives as mentioned before, including animal rights, human rights, children's rights, women's rights, and more. Sri Kailasa is working for uniting the world's nations for 108 such purposes and goals declared based on universal human values and world peace. So you can see all the 108 causes taken up by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nation on Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam page, official page, Sri Kailasa's official page on the website below.
Kailasa is taking up the responsibility of uniting the nations for ancient heritage, uniting nations for ancient knowledge and scriptural storing, uniting nations for ancient sciences, uniting nations for animal rights, uniting nations for children and youth, uniting nations for enlightened beings and avatars, uniting nations for feminine empowerment and gender equality, uniting nations against lawfare, uniting nations against persecutions and genocides, uniting nations for global peace and religious harmony, uniting nations for mental health and development, uniting nations for monks and nuns, uniting nations for mystical and spiritual sciences, uniting nations for nutritious food and hunger-free world, uniting nations for persecuted religions, uniting nations for revival of ancient civilizations, uniting nations for unique religions, uniting nations for yoga, uniting nations for ancient sacred arts and ancient sacred sciences, uniting nations for consciousness studies and consciousness practices, uniting nations for enlightened cultures and arts, uniting nations for indigenous aboriginal nations and traditions and cultures, uniting nations for advocating peace, uniting nations for yogic sciences, uniting nations for family health and development, uniting nations for the immigrants, uniting nations for safe and supportive entertainment, uniting nations for best
right spiritual techniques and methods and technology. Understand? Uniting nations for prevention of mass killings. Uniting nations for orphans and abandoned children. Uniting nations for furthering the researches to find cure for HIV/AIDS. Uniting nations for against the atrocities and crimes. We are working in all this line, and devotees, disciples, volunteers are creating organizations in multiple nations to do all this good work.
Now, the first Sri Kailasa United Nations cause we are presenting today is ending poverty, which relates to the United Nations Sustainable Developmental Goals, number 1, ending poverty. Poverty, as defined by World Vision, is not just about money, but also includes issues of access to services such as healthcare and education, marginalization, and exclusion. Since 1990, more than 1.2 billion people have risen out of extreme poverty. Now, 9.2 of the world survives on less than $1.90 a day, compared to nearly 36% in 1990. But the COVID-19 pandemic has jeopardized the future of the next generation as it threatens to reverse years of progress in the fight against global poverty and income inequalities. The Vedic civilization was never poor and holds the secrets to the science of wealth manifestation. In fact, the 56 Hindu nations which once existed lived in abundance until 1757. Bengal was the richest province in the whole world. The Vedic civilization offered from the space of Advaita, living in peaceful coexistence with one another, fulfilling their respective responsibilities, thereby equally contributing to the prosperity and stability of the society.
We have one Shastra Pramana that we would like to share with all of you. So in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 47, Lord Krishna shares an important Hindu principle with all of us, which guides us towards living a life that is based on responsibility instead of being driven by greed, and thereby ensuring the stability and the prosperity of the society. So the translation goes, you have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, nor be attached to inaction. We also wanted to share a beautiful Apta Pramana with all of you. So when we read the narration of how the Hindu nation ruled by Bhagavan Rama lived, we can see how stable and prosperous the society was. So the reference is from Valmiki Ramayana, Yuddha Kanda, chapter 128, verses 99 to 101. People survived for thousands of years with thousands of their progeny, all free of illness and grief. The trees there were bearing flowers and fruits regularly without any injury by pests and insects. The clouds were raining in time, and the wind was delightful to the touch. Every caste were performing their own duties, satisfied with their own work and of any greed. People were intent on virtue and lived without telling lies. All the people were endowed with excellent characteristics. All were engaged in virtue.
So now we will now listen to a video where the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism explains how poverty was artificially created by invaders.
The Macaulay's education, which took away our clarity about Advaita. The colonial mental setup, is our SDHD, self-doubt, hatred, denial. It is this colonial mental setup took away our Advaita from us, I tell you. First of all, we never had poverty till we have been swindled by all these invaders. Till 17th century, we were the richest country in the world. We never had poverty. The poverty was imposed on us to break our confidence. The artificial famines created by the British Empire, how they broke our backbone by creating artificial poverty. The Bengal famine was planned by British. Around 17 famines we had to go through, which was never part of our Vedic tradition. Only in the colonial periods, under the invaders, we went through 17 major famines, where millions were killed. It is just to break our confidence on our Vedic tradition, on our lifestyle, on our thinking pattern. I tell you, that is the way they inserted SDHD, self-doubt, self-hatred, self-denial into us. They swindled the country. Ships and ships of gold from this country has been shipped out. And then they start the missionaries and charity, giving few pennies back to us in the name of missionary and charity, to take away our confidence from this great Sanatana Dharma, Sanatana Hindu Dharma. Many times people ask me, why do you wear this gold Rudraksha, gold throne? I want to tell you, it is not gold, it is gold painted. Second, I wanted to remind you guys the richness, the way the Vedic tradition lived, had in the Vedic tradition. Unfortunately, all the good things, auspicious things are attributed to the Western colonial lifestyle. The other day I was browsing through some of the photographs of the recent museum inaugurated in the Rashtrapati Bhavan in India. I was feeling so sad. All the best things we are showcasing is from the colonial era. Only the British things are gold coated, golden. Very unfortunate. The idea of best life is somehow associated with the people who ruled us, who made us slaves. Somehow the good life has become their lifestyle. The idea of good life has been branded as the British lifestyle. We forgot the good life of the Vedic tradition. Last 300 years, 17 famines. What will happen to a civilization? When we look back, you can only remember the 300 years. And you remember only poverty, poverty, poverty as the lifestyle of Vedic tradition. That is why the stupid word Hindu rate of growth has been developed. Please understand, our self-doubt, self-hatred, self-denial has been created, injected, encouraged by the British by putting us into poverty, showing their lifestyle as a good lifestyle. And still we stupid fellows are practicing and believing the same. Practicing and believing the same. We should tell the world Vedic lifestyle, Vedic beliefs is good life. And that brand of good life, royal life, luxury life, best life should be again connected back to living Advaita, the non-dual consciousness. The people who live and practice non-duality is with a begging bowl. We picked up the begging bowl voluntarily because that is the only way we can relate with you. We will have the opportunity to come to your doors, not to receive but to give. Mahadeva picked up the begging bowl not to beg from you. He doesn't need to eat anything, or he can eat anything. He doesn't need to eat anything, or he can eat anything. He did not pick up the begging bowl to receive something from you, to come to your doorsteps so that you see his grace, the grace he carries, and may follow living Advaita. In 1943, millions of people in Bengal starved to death by artificial famine created by British. This was the last effort to break our confidence that we won't be able to survive on our own without British ruling us. British government ordered the destruction of all boats and rice stocks in coastal Bengal. And it exported 70,000 tons of rice for the use of British troops and British civilians. More than 4 million people were made to die to break our confidence in the Vedic lifestyle. But the news was never left out because British authorities took the advantage of wartime censorship. See, wartime you have the power to stop the news. They took the advantage of the wartime censorship to keep this news quiet. I tell you, it's unfortunate even we started believing the reason for our poverty, our suffering, all the bad things is our lifestyle and our thinking style and the cognition given to us by the Advaitic tradition, which is completely wrong. Understand?
The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism explained that the whole Bengali Sikh was destroyed due to the fear of mass deaths where thousands died because of the artificial famine. They lost their morale. They lost the morale of trusting life. The whole Bengali consciousness was suffering with the root pattern of life is cruel. To clean and heal the collective consciousness, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has conducted multiple workshops on the secrets of manifesting wealth as per the Hindu scriptures and initiated thousands into wealth consciousness. Another of the many initiatives launched by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism as a direct path towards poverty eradication, gender equality, self-empowerment of tribal women, and inclusive economic growth by launching initiatives such as the Nithyananda Lakshmi Microfinance Scheme. This special venture launched by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism in 2009 continued since then, specifically supports rural and urban rural women. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism religious organization is the first which entered into microfinance as early as 2009. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has conducted multiple workshops on the secrets of manifesting wealth as per Hindu scriptures and initiated thousands into wealth consciousness.
The second Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations cause that we're presenting today is free education for all, which relates to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 4. So what is education? As per the UNESCO's definition, education is the process of facilitating learning or the acquisition of knowledge, skills, values, beliefs, and habits. What is quality education? Quality education, as per UNESCO's definition, specifically entails issues such as, number 1, appropriate skill development, 2nd, gender parity, 3rd, provision of relevant school infrastructure, equipment, educational materials, and 4, resources, scholarships, or teaching force. Now, some statistics. In developing countries, 1 in 4 girls are not provided basic education. 103 million youth worldwide lack basic literacy skills, and more than 60% of them are women. But in Hinduism, education is a fundamental right. Hinduism promotes and ensures free education for all. Hinduism argues that true empowerment emerges through an understanding of the knowledge, which in turn leads to unity with the universe. It is believed to be a fundamental right for everyone to be taught and imparted knowledge.
In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, Lord Krishna gives us the definition of knowledge in 5 verses. The verses say, next slide. The verses say, humbleness, freedom from hypocrisy, non-violence, forgiveness, simplicity, service of the Guru, cleanliness of body and mind, steadfastness and self-control, dispassion towards the objects of the senses, absence of egotism, keeping in mind the evils of birth, disease, old age, and death, non-attachment, absence of clinging to spouse, children, house, and so on, even-mindedness, amidst desired and undesired events in life, constant and exclusive devotion towards me, and inclination for solitary places and an aversion for mundane society, constancy in spiritual knowledge, and philosophical pursuit of the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and what is contrary to it I call ignorance.
And now we will be listening to a video where the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism explains how education can only be called education when it leads to the production of human beings of higher consciousness, which is exactly what the Vedic education, the Gurukul system, is designed to do.
Only when the education is producing the human beings of higher consciousness, it can be called as education. Not just some skills or talent. Set of skills and talent does not make you educated, as I said. Uneducated are those who are educated only in schools. Uneducated are those who are educated only in schools. Please understand, in any civilization, any culture, any country, any society, if there is a peace, there will be a lot of research and development. The Hindu civilization, 95% of the monuments we built are monuments for education. 3% is for great educators and teachers. Understand? All our temples are not monuments of some war victory. It's a place for education in memory of the great teachers and educators. It's a Samadhi of Siddhas. Based on the monuments, you can understand what was highly respected in that civilization, in that society. There was so much peace, so much of research, development, so much of knowledge creation, so much exploration on space, under the earth, into the fire. So much has been done, so much knowledge was available. Even whatever is left out is unimaginable, unmatched. Humanity may take at least 5,000 years to catch up with Vedic knowledge. To catch up with our education system, they may take even 10,000 years. understand the statements I am making are not out of ego, arrogance, self-pride or anything. I am simply stating the fact, simple truth straight away as it is. Simple truth straight away. We put so much of attention on Arjuna becoming a greatest warrior from an emerging out of Gurukul, but we forget from the same Gurukul, Sahadeva emerges as the greatest astrologer. It means what? A whole department of astrology was functioning in that same Gurukul. But we were so glamoured by Arjuna emerging as the greatest archer and Bhima emerging as the greatest wrestler. We forgot Sahadeva emerged as the greatest astrologer. Please understand, even to be a greatest archer, you need the knowledge from multiple other disciplines. What we built, what we revered, what we respect, what we want to be, what we want to remember, how we want to be remembered. Understand these two. What we want to remember when we were in the body, life, how we want to be remembered by our next generation. All these aspirations were centered on education. All these aspirations were centered on education. So much of knowledge on physical health, mental health, consciousness, powers of consciousness, so much was available. Our education system, our Gurukul system, making human beings should again become the mainstream education system.
And to revive the glory of the ancient Vedic enlightened education system, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism founded the world's largest Hindu university, the Nithyananda Hindu University, with extended campuses in 150 countries, 270,000 plus enrollments, and 2,700 plus courses conducted. Through the Nithyananda Hindu University, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is collecting 1 million source books of Hinduism and making the pursuit of degrees and doctorates available to all. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism also founded the Nithyananda Gurukul with 40 centers worldwide, providing free services for education and well-being of children. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has revived the authentic Gurukul system, which provides gender equitable access to free quality education in English, science, history, and math, as well as all the Vedic sciences, such as meditation, yoga, and arts, and a safe place for girls to learn. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism ensures that no child is excluded on the basis of gender, disability, poverty, ethnicity, and language.
Okay, so while we get the slides up and running, we will now move into renewable energy and affordable and clean energy. And this is mapped to the UN Sustainable Development Goals number 7, which is clean and affordable energy. So by now you may have understood the entire context of Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations, the 108 initiatives led by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, His Divine Holiness Bhagwan Nithyananda Paramashivam, and how all of this is being mapped to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And we would have spoken about education as well as ending hunger. So now as we move into renewable and affordable clean energy, the first thing that we must know of is the definition. What is clean energy or renewable energy? So clean energy or renewable energy is defined as the useful energy renewable sources which are naturally replenished on a human time scale, including carbon neutral sources such as sunlight, wind, rain, tides, wave, and geothermal heat. And geothermal heat, for those who may not know, it comes from heat that is developed from volcanic activity. So according to the World Health Organization, air pollution kills an estimated 7 million people worldwide every single year. The WHO data shows that almost all of the global population, which is 99%, breathe air that exceeds WHO's guideline limits containing high levels of pollutants, with low and middle income countries suffering from the highest exposures. And this has led to increased mortality from stroke, heart disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, lung cancer, and even acute respiratory infections. So many may not even know that air pollution actually causes so many other health issues, not just lung cancer or respiratory issues, but it is linked to even heart attacks and stroke. So moving along, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has spoken many things and shared many revelations from the ancient civilization. And he spoke very clearly about the Vedic sciences and technology when it comes to affordable and clean energy. And he says that a source of energy that is completely sustainable actually exists. And it's a kind of technology that operates from the power of consciousness. So this is something that is not yet widely known to mankind. Actually, very recently, Swamiji mentioned that the fifth force of the universe is the power of consciousness. And only 4 main forces are really known to mankind. So he mentioned that the records of the Mahabharata actually revealed that a source of energy was commonly used in those times in the use of astra-shastras and weapons, such as the Nagastra and the Brahmastra, which operated again from consciousness alone. So how was all of this possible? Well, we'll find out more. So during an interview with the Avatar, Holiness Bhagwan Nithyananda Paramashivam, the following question was asked to him regarding affordable and clean energy. And this is what he had to say. He said, "The present technology, which we can trace very clearly to the Industrial Revolution, and you know the technology you use, it actually destroys Earth. In Vedic technology, there was something like that, and I suppose that was much advanced than present technology. So are we going to do anything on this aspect? So we will now move into the actual video where Swamiji spoke about this ancient way of creating energy and sustaining energy from the most sustainable source, which is consciousness itself.
In Vedic technology, all the resources are from other planes and other places. We were importing. Surya comes and gives his powers. Then Indra comes and gives his Vajra. Varuna comes and gives his powers. It is all imported. But in this modern industrial revolution, in this technology, the resources have to be sucked from here and made into different shapes. And the human greed is not leaving even the source to be alive. This is my responsibility. I will have to find alternative resources, fuel, energy and bioenergy. For all these three, I have to find alternative resources which does not belong to this planet, which belongs to other plane where the resources are endless. See, the other plane resources, one good thing is such large population does not exist in other planes. That's one. Second, such large demand does not exist there. People ask me, why did you not reveal this whole science of power manifestation in 2003 or 2002? I should tell them, I am very clear, I am putting the whole answer on record. It is not that in 2003, 2004 I do not know this science, but it takes its own time to get downloaded, settle down and open up and reach out to the people. In 2003 itself we have video records, we have video satsangs where I am speaking about this power manifestation, where I am even explaining the procedures. They will be given a Shaktipat in third eye and then they will start reading blindfolded. I am speaking. But it took at least 3-4 years for the whole science to settle down, body to adjust for that vibration, for that frequency and for that to manifest, and that kind of a disciples to come and receive. The whole thing to become a demonstrable Sakshi Pramana. It took at least 3-4 years. Same way, now I know the Shastra Pramana and Apta Pramana, and even as Atma Pramana, that it is getting downloaded. Just today I was telling that the Aushadha for immortality is already become my Atma Pramana now, which was Shastra Pramana, Apta Pramana. It is already now my Atma Pramana. Today only I said, let it be on record, at least for the sake of history. For this to become Sakshi Pramana, I am roughly looking at next at least 2 years. All these sciences are not dead. We just need to take the responsibility to receive them and manifest them and properly organize it to make it user friendly and reach it out to the humanity. I should say my whole mission is that only. My whole life is that only. And surely at least within next 5 years I will find an alternative resource, fuel, energy and bioenergy. When I use the word bioenergy, the energy which is needed to run the body, there will be, actually there is the external resource which can make the human body without any food or the water or any need from this plane. So the preliminary understanding which I received, I started sharing through the Nirahara Samyama. But now I know there is a clear resource available.
So before we move into the other segment, I would just like to share that all viewers, there's a lot of exciting things happening and offerings by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations, especially the youth out there, those who love science or love anything that has to do with innovation. This is a really incredible space to be in, and Swamiji, His Divine Holiness Bhagwan Nithyananda Paramashivam, is bringing all of this to the world for the benefit of humanity.
So the fourth Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations that we are going to present today is the SOSK's partnership, meaning the Sovereign Order of Sri Kailasa's partnerships. Over the past 27 years, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has successfully formed an efficient network of religious peacekeepers made up of international humanitarian agencies, which are now active in over 100 countries. Specifically, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has launched the 6 international Om mandates for the betterment of mankind, and they include the saffron Om, the red Om, the white Om, the yellow Om, the green Om, and the blue Om. In all the humanitarian initiatives, the Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations has partnered with the 6 Oms to provide fundamental services to the globe where they operate, including charitable relief, counseling, youth and women empowerment, animal rights, environmental protection, revival of indigenous traditions, and running educational institutions. By doing so, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism works to raise humanity to the next level of conscious evolution through spiritual strength, thereby leading the way to a sustainable future. Recently, Kailasa has established diplomatic relations and partnership with the government of Uganda to eradicate hunger, foster youth leadership, holistic health, education, individual stewardship, and sustainable living. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has received over 1,000 of recognitions from government officials from many countries, including Canada, in the form of proclamations, letters, and certificates of recognitions. And also, thus far, 4 reports on the persecution on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and Kailasa, and also the contribution to humanity, especially during COVID, has been published. And some of the reports, the media disinformation in India, which was published by the United Nations Special Rapporteur for Freedom of Opinion and Expression, the persecution of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and indigenous women of Kailasa, and also a report on femicide against women was also published by the United Nations, and Kailasa's COVID care solutions and multilateralism. And as we can see on the screen, these are some of the recognitions that Sri Kailasa and the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism have received in recognition of the humanitarian services. Yes. So, on behalf of Kailasa Nation, we sincerely thank each and every one of you for your online presence today to discuss the numerous efforts of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and Kailasa towards the achievements of the Sustainable Development Goals of 2030. Hinduism, revived by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, is the solution and shows humanity the path towards a non-violent and sustainable future. Stay tuned for future Kailasa live panel discussions, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Bhagavan Shri Nithyananda Paramashivam Padukarpanamastu. Om Nithyanandam.